Hello and welcome to Conversations About Language Teaching. I'm your co-host, Dr. Reed Riggs.
And I am Dr. Diane Neubauer. And as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube or as you
Pronouns?
hear... Oh, she, her.
Yeah,
yes.
He, him. If you're watching on YouTube, we are live where I live. Diane's in town. She just finished a day-long training.
Yes, with the Hawaii Department of Education and teachers of many different languages all around the Hawaiian Islands. And it was a lovely, lovely time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and they're great teachers, curious and ready to learn and jump in trying new skills. So we thought we would talk a little bit about kind of teacher training and maybe ideas about how that's effective or how to plan for that or how do teachers learn and grow and those sorts of questions.
We also want to try something new on this episode, which is mentions. Diane, do you have anything to mention?
I do have something to mention. We have some people who have been sponsoring this podcast for quite some time, and we rarely offer thanks on the show. So thank you for those who are supporting the show financially. There's a little bit of an option of just a $3 a month subscription thing that Buzzsprout then takes off what we are charged and puts it into the subscription. So if you do listen to this podcast a lot and want to help us with finances, we appreciate that all the time, either as a subscription or as a subscription and then a cancellation of the subscription. That still counts as doing that. So thanks for doing that.
Yep. We apologize for the wind. We hope that our little setup here is making this audible.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
See how it goes, but probably post it anyways. Today's topic.
Oh, did you have any mentions, though?
Oh, do I have any mentions? Thanks for asking. At this time, I don't. But in the future, I will, yeah.
I have one more mention, too. If you're hearing this as the episode is released in sometime in March of 2026, there is still time if you live near Michigan to join the in-person conference in Saline, Michigan, near Ann Arbor, Mitten CI. So if you search online, Mitten CI, 2026, you'll find information about that. So that's a Friday evening and all-day Saturday event for language teacher training. So if this episode inspires you, like, oh, where could I go and get this sort of training? There is a very soon opportunity if you can make it to Michigan.
Yes, and training is so important. Training, I think if you listen to the Slay podcast, Ben Fisher-Rodriguez, and who else is in there?
And Bill Langley.
Mm-hmm.
I think now they're the sole leads on that.
They have a fantastic recent episode about a research project that happened in Turkey, and one of the main findings of that, according to that podcast that I just listened to, in that research was that teacher training made a huge difference in the outcomes.
Yes, wasn't it on TPRS and how people were implementing it in the classrooms? And
was it specifically TPRS
or
sort of input?
But in I think a classic version of TPRS, like
input
story
focused,
asking,
input focused.
Yes,
yeah.
And so that totally resonates with me. It makes a lot of sense to me that if you have had really quality experiences in training, you've seen this happen live, you've maybe been a part of being a student in a language class, you've debriefed it and thought about what you actually saw right then and there, and then could go, oh, right, this made me realize I need to slow down. Oh,
that's a real common one we hear from teachers is, oh, I didn't realize how much I need to slow down. We hear that almost every training, and I've been hearing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Teachers saying that.
Yeah, and I just was in the conference that I was attending today. I did a Mandarin Chinese demonstration lesson where it's around pandas doing picture talk. And we were looking at different photos, and I was asking them questions in very, very simple, total beginner Mandarin. And in some of the comments of people afterwards, again, it was like, wow, it really shows me I need to slow down. And how I used to think, like, if there was a pause, students were going to get restless. But when you were writing on the board, I really kind of needed the time to think and predict, and it helped me. And so it's like that kind of slowing down, but a purposeful slowing down.
Yeah.
This is something that Bill Van Patten, I think, said way back on his podcast back in the day, TV EVP, where it's slowing down in a purposeful way. So it's not like this.
It's not like slowing down audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like giving time to the brain.
Yeah.
To think
Yeah.
and think about what does this mean,
Yeah.
how to respond.
I've explained this,
modeling.
the slowness thing, and we'll get to our main topic.
Yeah.
This is just a piece of.
Right, but this is the kind of practical
Yeah.
thing that you wouldn't go, well, I really need to learn how to slow down. Like,
Yeah, you
you
wouldn't
don't
think
even
to.
realize
You wouldn't
it.
think
and
to.
so it's this kind of
Yeah.
experience in a training that's very experiential.
Right.
It's so helpful.
Yeah, as a side note, and then we'll launch our main topic here. The way I've explained
I'm
this,
full of the
you just came off
excitement
it.
of
You
I
just came off
literally
it, so you
drove
have a
here
lot of
afterwards.
specific things
Yeah.
thinking about. Right, you just finished it. So, TED Talks often start out with somebody saying, "When I was little, there was this person on our block," and those kinds of pauses serve an oratory function.
Yes.
There's a purpose to them, not in terms of maybe topic development, and not in terms of the semantics or meaning in itself, but in terms of drawing the audience in, which is one of many purposes that happen during talking.
Yeah.
And so those kinds of pauses don't have to just be about language processing. They simultaneously do help language processing, but they also serve a
Yeah.
very normal, and they also display, there's a cool thing is that you're giving beginners advanced oratory modeling.
Yes.
Like, how would a TED Talk speaker draw in the audience? Beginners get that from the beginning because it also helps their processing to have it slow anyways.
Yeah.
So you can do that as a teacher, like model good pausing that's part of good presentational mode speaking.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. And something you mentioned along the way in there is that because we are teachers, we are thinking about actual humans and actual human interaction and not only about linguistics and the development of language in the head. We also are thinking about how is this going to be carried out socially? How am I going to keep them engaged? How am I going to, well, oh, this kid looks lost. This looks bored. This one, like you've got 100 things going through your mind at every split second, and taking into account that kind of experience is, I think, really hard to do unless you're in a training with other people.
Yep.
Online training works too. I have absolutely done that, and it's absolutely helpful. In person is a very special, intimate feel, I think. Like, you feel close to people. You feel the vibe, I think, a little more easily, and I think a lot of us did today. There was like a sort of a joy, actually, that comes from teaching language in a way that is expressive of people's interests and humanity and curiosity, and so.
So today you were invited. So what you did today? How long ago were you invited to do this? A couple months.
Couple months.
Okay.
I think
How many per year trainings like this do you give?
I don't know. Depends on the year. A few.
Yeah.
A few. Yeah.
Three or four.
5 or 6 maybe.
Okay. And then
Maybe not always in person, but sometimes it's online. Like maybe just an hour or two kinds of training. But you do this kind of thing as well.
I do. I haven't done them as much recently since I've had children.
Yeah.
And little ones. Yeah. I have I have an 8-month-old and an almost 4-year-old. So I think for me it was starting back in grad school. I would try to present at HALT. I would try to present at ACTFL.
And those are Hawaii Association of Language Teachers and then the U.S. National Association.
And also, there was a graduate student at University of Hawaii who was in the Second Language Studies department, and I was into TPRS at that time. It's about 10 years ago, 13 years ago. He would invite me to his, I think it was an undergraduate SLS class in language teaching or something like that. And so he had me once a semester come in and do a TPRS demo. And so I had opportunities to do these. It was in 2018 that the HALT board gave our little cohort of input-based teachers, CI teachers, the summer summit. They said, we're not really doing much with it. Why don't you just take it? And so we organized it into this big fun event of different rooms. And so you could go into you rotate through a picture talk room in Spanish, and then a story. I did TPRS story asking in Mandarin, which followed with reading.
And I had someone mention that they remembered some Mandarin from that demo that you had done years
2018?
ago.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's these things that really help retain.
What I really appreciate from, I think, Star Talk and also CI teacher or events is the emphasis on hands-on teacher experience. Teachers are experiencing being learners, and there are pros and cons to this. it's often modeling day one beginner learners.
Yeah.
And then you're just told, oh, but you just get more complex with your language with more advanced students. I'm 100% certain that your curriculum and your micro practices will not be just simply language being more complex.
Right.
That what you're doing for total beginners is great for total beginners. And we also, so I just saw Alicia Cardenas present CI for intermediate learners demo, and we got to experience through English because we were not intermediate learners in whatever language could be demoed.
Right. You didn't share a language that you all had at intermediate besides English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I was able to use my imagination and say, oh yeah, we're going to talk about a text on some cultural topic from the get-go, and do different kinds of activities that involve all three modes, all four skills. We're listening, speaking, writing, reading, writing, as we reread and re-listen to a text each time. And then she was doing all kinds of funny things with the text, and I realized at that time that hearing a teacher read a text doesn't just have to be like a parent reading aloud for you. They can perform for you, so you can hear interesting ways of talking as you're hearing that text read to you. So, but again, it was another example of me experiencing it as opposed to me hearing about it.
Yeah, or being told, well, do this, oh, do that,
oh,
do. But seeing it and being able to reflect, you kind of come to your own realizations, too. And I think that's very powerful learning.
Yeah.
It's not... each person takes away something that's unique to their own need and their own context. And while there's that difficulty, I think, of transitioning, like, well, this demonstration was modeled in this language with this kind of learner in mind. My learners are this and that, but it is at least showing you a holistic experience and giving you that kind of holistic experience. So, and to plug my own research study with Pam Wesley, we found in interviewing 12 different teachers from all across the U.S., different regions of the country, and many different languages taught, they found that a lot of the things that they were finding themselves do, or they were really intentionally going about, what was memorable from teacher training and conferences was this kind of experiential learning as being a student in the language and debriefing it, not just being a student, but being able to talk through, what did we just experience? What did you see? What were the techniques? And then also seeing a teacher teach other students, especially teaching children. There were some conferences that had that model. And again, debriefing with the teacher, like, well, you did this. What did you do that for? Or those kinds of questions and noticing. And then being coached. So, and that's something I'm also very interested in. There is a new World Language Coaching Collaborative, which is a nonprofit organization aiming at developing language teacher coaching. So that is yet to be really made widely public, but that is in kind of a trickle down. It's coming. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Is there anything specific you want to share about that at this time, or should we wait?
That is something to wait on.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's all I can say for now. But it's because I saw in that study how much those areas of experiential learning felt memorable to the teachers. It wasn't the keynote speaker, which might be very inspiring and kind of set the agenda for the conference. It's not that it's not valuable, but in terms of their own learning as they were teaching and what they were trying to implement, it wasn't so much the presentations about an activity, it was the experiences of being in the activity or seeing the activity being acted out.
Yeah.
Or getting coached and trying something out that was new and thinking through the process and trying again and watching someone else try and get coaching and feedback. And
I found a while back, this was at Star Talk. I often find at Star Talk, Star Talk was a government initiative to try to get less commonly taught languages, what they called critical languages, so national security need kind of languages. And Mandarin was included, luckily, so we had lots of funding and I had lots of different summer programs and year-round programs to train teachers and see teaching practices in action. Teachers would study various principles, like the Star Talk endorsed principles, things like use authentic resources, have a thematically organized unit.
target language use.
Target language use was huge. And they would say 90%, but they were looking for 100%.
Yeah.
Like they really wanted like as immersion based as possible.
We should have an episode about that topic.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, they eased up on it in later years. It was my first years there in 2012 and 2013 that people would get kind of criticized by the site visitors and say, "I noticed you used a little bit of English there." Like, and maybe it was a fair moment they were criticizing. Like maybe in that moment, I could imagine a better use of the target language for that. That's fair. What I saw later was easing up on it and allowing teachers to kind of make their own decisions.
Yeah, a little more teacher autonomy. And,
Yeah.
a little trust in the moment.
So what I often found was that teachers who would sit in the back of the students who I was demoing with, everyone's teachers in the room. There's me and a bunch of teachers, and some of them would be my students.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'd be demo teaching Mandarin to people who don't speak any Mandarin.
Gotcha.
And I would ask anyone who already speaks Mandarin, teachers, or someone who'd studied a bit before, hey, can you just watch?
Be an observer instead. Yep.
And so what I found pretty quickly was that people who sat in the back couldn't see the faces of the students I was teaching, and I think that was why they would have all kinds of weird questions for me afterwards. Like, oh, why did you slow down? Why didn't you challenge them more? Why did you do that? So then what I started doing was setting it up such that anyone who was not a student in the room needed to sit at the sides between me and the students, but not between us, but like to the side of between us.
Back and forth. What you saw as a teacher as well as what the students saw as a student.
You could see us both because I need you to see what I'm reacting to. Like
Exactly.
when I say something and I see a frozen face, I'm going to address that and respond. I might repeat myself. I might check with that student. I might gesture again. And so when I started doing that, then I noticed that the observers seemed fine and happy with what was going on.
Yeah.
And there weren't any more of those like, why did you repeat yourself? You should have gone faster.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not teaching blind. Again, we're teaching in the context of our classroom with people.
I've never heard that. Not teaching blind. That's a good phrase.
Well, it's not about like, oh, I've got to get this script and read this script and ask this question. Did I hear an answer? Okay, go on to the next one. It's, you're building something with people. If you need to script, absolutely write down questions, but then wait and look and see what happened when you asked. Did they get it? Are they showing signs of comprehension? Are they showing any sign of engagement?
Yeah.
Do you need to ask in a different way? Do you need to pause?
If you've
restate,
if you've pre-scripted something,
Yeah.
then savor savor moment to moment instead of trying to get through it.
I even talked to savor is a great word because one of the people in the training today said something about, I really realized I needed to slow down. And I said, what I think about it like is if you've heard about or maybe attended a wine tasting, it's like think about the language as if you're tasting a wine, like you're just enjoying the sounds in your mouth and thinking about the way that this language works. And
Sure.
I truly love the language that I teach. And so it's a joy to be able to bring that to people. It's so thinking about like, I'm enjoying this language is kind of on the subconscious level constantly while I'm teaching. So it's really just a joy.
Well, and also on a meaning side, like let's appreciate and have time to connect the meaning of this word to what's going on. Like this person, I was playing with Annie just recently, and I said, I said, I love Emmy, but I don't just love Emmy, I love someone else too. And her name is not Emmy. And Annie started jumping in, and Annie's like, it's Annie. And I was like,
Annie's 3.5.
Annie's 3.5.
Yeah.
So then I started saying like, but her name is not Emmy. Instead, it's something else. And I was just like playing. I was playing with Annie, and she's like, "It's Annie. Say Annie. Like, come on, say Annie." And so, but like, I think that kind of projecting or that sort of like
they're
getting,
predicting what's coming
like
next.
causing, leading and causing someone to or helping someone predict.
Yeah.
Like that's what you can do with meaning as well. In addition to being like, look how nice this sound is. Let's enjoy. And like let that echo in our ear for a moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going to say also that let me see. It was about the way that we want teachers to experience something. I've had this metaphor for a little bit. So I was at it was the ed tech department, educational technology department at UH, and they were doing a showcase when my wife Nan was a grad student there.
Mm-hmm.
And these two researchers were showing off a Dance Dance Revolution game.
Oh yeah.
But it was set up with math problems coming down, addition and subtraction.
Yikes.
And they shared their findings. That was that they took American students to China, and they found students with great math scores in China and students with sort of average math scores in America. And not to play on stereotypes, but they made sure that it matched like what they were going with, which is that they found good math students in China, average math students in America, put them all together and had them play this game and observed how people develop. What they saw was that through playing the games, everyone benefited. Everyone's math scores went up. They got faster at processing.
Totally believe it.
They also, interestingly, people observing the game
They got better
too. Because what you're
Yes.
doing is you're watching and predicting.
And yes, and there's research behind that as well. Even with TPR, the total physical response approach, James Asher's, back in the 70s, I guess, developed, or maybe even late 60s. They did a study of people observing others doing TPR with a teacher, and those who were observers also gained language. It was
Yes.
not merely those
Yes.
who were doing the actions.
Yeah, one of our
Yeah,
director
observing
at
Great
the
learning.
Portland State University. I think it was in Portland. No, it was in Atlanta. It was in Atlanta Star Talk. It was one of the lead teachers. I had him sit on the side and watch. And so he wasn't participating at all. He was just observing. But afterwards, he also was able to kind of retell the story and read the text and everything because he was just watching
Yep.
and trying. So
Oh, that was it. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, today that same thing happened. There were two people there today who knew at least some Mandarin. One was a native speaker. And so beforehand, I asked for those who knew Mandarin and said, I'd like you to consider being an observer and really watch the students around you, because you have a little bit more brain space to think about the things that you're seeing the students do, and look for the things that I'm using from the students. So see if I'm adjusting perhaps, or what am I seeing on the faces of students, and what am I seeing in terms of their responses. They might be silent. We're doing a novice lesson today, so especially then there's a likelihood that you won't hear full sentences popping out from everyone right away. And our goal is it's a comprehension-based lesson, so we're going to be building towards their output rather than doing a lot of drills right up front. So I think that was helpful too.
yeah, and then you saw them kind of gain language through that as well.
Well, not so much that, but they were gaining what you were talking about earlier,
Okay.
that sense of like, what am I looking for from students too? 'Cause
Oh.
as a student in
Yeah.
the language, I think you're working hard at like, I'm understanding, I'm working, wait a minute, what did that mean?
Yeah.
You're looking at all the clues and all the helps of the teacher and thinking through that. But when you have that observer role, I think that's you've got a little extra space because you're not on point.
Yeah.
You've got a little extra working memory going for some other observations. And I think that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why it's so great.
Yeah. Well, I had a kind of a metaphor. So I at that time, this is, I don't know, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago, I was subbing at Yilani School in the lower school one day shortly after I saw this math game presentation. And the teachers were complaining about students, and students aren't so good at math anymore. And I shared about this dance game and about how the research showed that everyone's scores went up. And one of the teachers just like clapped back at me, and she said, "Oh, these kids, everything has to be fun, fun, fun. Like back in my day, we just did the work. Like, oh, we just did the work." And so I thought of it. It kind of sat with me for a little while, but I thought of a good metaphor, which is that, and I still think of this today. You can read about swimming and study really hard with flashcards and textbooks. You can like really commit it to memory through really arduous work. But if you're not in water, you're not learning the same thing as the students that are in the water.
Yeah.
And I think that that math game, I have a simple explanation for that one as well, which is that I'm sure there's a lot more than this going on, but one of the simplest things going on is more frequency, more attempts at solving math problems.
Right.
Because in a game, you keep trying and failing, and you're like, it's not that you solved a math problem that you're proud of.
Right.
It's that you're getting more points than your opponent.
Yeah.
So you'll keep doing more math problems.
So there's like another motivation than just the math.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
when we're learning language, but if we're doing something with it, like we're getting to know each other in the room, we're like asking some personal questions, we're learning about the world. Like today in the lesson, I was mostly doing a focus on learning about what pandas look like and what they don't look like, and whether mom pandas look a certain way and what baby pandas look like. And but we also did a little bit of like who in the class was a mom, because we were looking at a mother panda, and so a little comparison. So learned about each other. And then we can be imaginative and create things or entertain ourselves by telling stories to each other. And so when we have those kinds of communicative purposes, I think that like we're doing something besides just learning language, and I think that's very motivating very often. It's
very motivating, but you're also, like I noticed in Duolingo, they don't often repeat an exact sentence more than once or twice. And I think that when language itself is your focus, you, even as a learner, you'd say, oh, I did this already.
Yeah.
But if you're using a language, there's no limit to how many times you'll say, oh, this one, no. Oh, this one, no. This one, no. Because you're using the language to talk about things or to solve problems.
Yeah.
And so you end up just there's a lot more going on than this, but at the very minimum, you are using it. You're using those same sentences and words more.
Yeah.
Because they're used for something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It gives you the context to need to say or need to hear and understand and process the meaning of all those things. So, yeah.
I've seen through trainings, teachers reach out to me later. Like you mentioned that someone mentioned me today. I haven't done those. I haven't been as involved since I've had the kids. I do probably once or twice a year. Every HALT spring conference in around April. I usually present because it's local and it's easy to get to. So I keep doing that. I was just at Southwest Conference on Language Teaching, and I presented because I was running for Regional Teacher of the Year after winning Hawaii Association of Language Teachers Teacher of the Year, and that was it. I didn't win, but it was a fantastic experience, and it got my gears going about some things that would be worth sharing about. Not right now, but actually, the thing I shared was actually about this. Was we need more hands-on training, and that Star Talk was a great program, and we need to bring back, if not Star Talk itself, programs like Star Talk, and you've got a sleeping network of former Star Talk leadership who would be happy to all contact each other and say, hey, there's new funding for something similar to Star Talk, and now let's include the more commonly taught languages. Let's get the indigenous languages.
We need a multilingual society.
We do. So that was basically what came up with. I was sharing with you as some of my speech practice.
Right.
So you've heard it.
Yes. Yeah.
It was good. Yeah, I saw a lot of head nodding in the room when I was saying this stuff. I was like, you gotta have this.
Yeah, because I think teaching in general is a career field where people, it's challenging. I can't remember the percentages right now, but there's been studies about how many people leave teaching within 5 years, and it's a percentage that shows like why we have a teacher shortage. And I think some of these kinds of training, not only for the sense of success going back into your classroom, a sense of skills and confidence to apply them in your classroom, but also finding the network of other teachers who can be that support system for you, and just enjoying like being a part of this field.
Yeah.
That's why I keep coming back to it. I mean, this is fun. At
Alicia's intermediate input-based session, there was a teacher. I always meet new teachers. There was a teacher I'd never met. Alicia had us partner up with someone near us, and so started talking with this teacher, and we just somehow got on the topic of like, you got to come to the conferences. Like, you'll meet passionate people, and you get to be with similarly passionate people, and I think that's part of staying in the profession is.
And you keep growing and learning and tweaking, and it's not like. Teaching is so dynamic, I think, and there's always something like, ooh, I could try this, or, there's room to grow even after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years.
And I have heard people say, like, oh, nothing's changed, like, oh, we still know that you have to teach toward proficiency, like, it's, what's the point? I do see changes. I have no reason to be cynical. I would say that if I saw no changes, I would say, I don't see any changes, but I do.
And I think things change year to year in your own classroom, at least in that you have different people in front of you. And so you're going to emphasize a different thing perhaps, or you experience different things with your own students too.
On the personal end, so your needs keep changing. But also like the big discourse, I do see that changing. Like I would say over 13 years ago, the input-based kind of teaching felt very underground,
Yeah.
and it felt a little persecuted.
Yeah.
And then starting, I don't know, after like 5 or 6 years, maybe around 2020-ish, I feel like that's evaporated, and now everyone's just sharing everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
We don't need to be competitive
No.
with or off in silos, and it's not like we have a similar goal. We would like students to become proficient in a language. We want to enjoy our careers in getting there, and I think that's also maybe a sub-goal. I mean,
Yep.
like we can share ideas and learn from one another regardless of our background in language teaching and or what kind of teaching we might term ourselves. And
Yeah.
there's that's maybe another conversation, but
No, there's that, and then there's also like use of English and
yes, and thinking about translanguaging, which I think should be a
Right.
topic of a
right.
different episode too.
And we get sort of newer emphases on things. Like I think that translanguaging isn't that new, but it's newly broadened.
Thought
It's
out.
newly like I'm seeing
World language,
way more
yeah.
people talking about it in our field.
Yeah.
And so instead of just saying, "Oh, you should just allow translation," sometimes, no, this is so much more than that.
This is a different
And-
way of thinking.
Yeah, it includes code switching, but it's also so much more than that. It's about purpose and what people are doing
Yeah.
with their repertoires of languages. It's worth looking at, but we're seeing more presenters including that.
Uh-huh.
Also, things like indigenous languages. We had a variety of teachers at a TPR. You think, oh, TPR, that's old, but no, there were a variety of language teachers there, including a deaf signing teacher, and we had to work with this teacher to figure out like how sign language would work, where she signs and then we gesture.
Yeah.
And some of those signs, like raising your hand, was identical to us raising our hand.
Yeah.
But the sign for walking was different from us acting out walking.
Right.
Or the sign for hiding was different from us doing a little hiding sign.
Yeah.
But we had to kind of workshop and figure that out because none of us were like
hadn't
ready
done
to
that.
go. We hadn't done it before. And so like, yeah, I always learn something new,
Right.
many new, and more than one new thing.
Right.
Every
And I think
conference.
the
Yeah.
other thing too is you see a variety of different people doing this sort of thing. So if you're at a workshop or a conference where someone is teaching a language you teach or a language you don't teach, like the language is one of the variables that might give you different insights, but also the personality of the teacher comes across. So
Yeah.
there are very extroverted, very high energy teachers. There are very low key teachers. There are ones that are a mix of everything. There's some that are more
Yeah.
theatrical in the way they do things, some that are more
Yeah.
visual and contemplative, and these all they get expressed in the style of the teacher. So today I was talking with someone about how wait, was that maybe you all last night? Teaching is an art and a science. Maybe that was Non.
I think I said something about art and science last night to you.
Okay. Yeah.
We're
So
at
that
dinner
that
last
sense
night.
of like
Yeah.
there are things that we're doing that have evidence, and there's reasons why we would do them. But there's also then that art of the style of working with people, and that develops over time. And so getting different models of that.
Yeah, it wasn't with you. There was. I talked about that with a student at school,
Okay.
and it wasn't with you. So that must
Well,
have
maybe
been.
it was somebody today.
Or maybe not. Okay.
Or maybe it was Non. But yeah.
But yeah, that idea of like pre-planned, following like very direct things you need to do, but also having a huge amount of freedom in how you implement it
Yeah.
is kind of always
Yeah.
the case. In fact, this Paul Seedhouse book I'm reading right now, he talks about that it's both homogeneous and heterogeneous at the same time,
Yeah.
because you've got these sort of universal actions like initiating and responding, and we're all kind of sensitive to it. And as children, we get trained into initiations and responses. But what exact actions those are doing, such as greeting and reading, asking a question, answering a question, and then at the micro level of exact words you're using, at that level, it's probably unique almost every time. Like you're doing
Yeah.
it's a huge variety of words you could use at that level.
Yep.
So the same with teaching. I'm trying to deliver some content, or I'm trying to get students used to these words we're going to need in a reading. How you implement it on the micro level is going to be unique.
Yep, absolutely. And maybe to turn it a little bit to that aspect of implementing and that uniqueness and the going back to the classroom experience. One of the things about the workshop today was emphasizing some teaching strategies. So as we were doing coaching, people were trying out a particular teaching strategy. So not just how can I ask questions and get responses and build on those, but thinking about, okay, I'm going to do picture talk, or I'm doing card talk, or I did movie talk and it's more original format this afternoon. And so they were thinking of like a particular instructional activity that you're kind of aiming for. And the challenge to participants was try one of those in your own classroom between now and 2 weeks from now when they meet again. 2 weeks? 3 weeks? So they get a little chance to see how it goes, and then can come back and talk again with people who had the same training, had the same goals. You know where you are in the process of learning this, and so it's a supportive way to get to try it. I think that's critical, because I think that, again, in the study I did with Pam Wesley, this is 2023, I'll of course put in show notes a link to that. One of the things that was a challenge was being able to implement it when the things that you experienced and were modeled and observing at the conference now
they're not exactly
match.
Not exactly the same as your classroom.
My seventh graders who are reluctant to be in my Spanish class are very different from the room full of language teachers who are like, wow, about Mandarin, you know.
Classroom management is never an issue with a room full of teachers.
Well, it can
on occasion, a less than willing teacher, I've had that as well. Someone who's like, this would never work. I've had that happen with teachers. There's like one teacher that's just like, this is not. I'm not going to do this. I won't do this.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But
it's a different kind of a reason usually.
Right.
And so, you know, there are all these other different factors when you're working with developmental age differences and all of that. And so getting someone to help you, or troubleshooting with someone else, maybe another language teacher at your school, or some kind of a follow-up in an online forum, or, hey, I met this person at this training. We're gonna meet in 2 months and see how it's going and see if we can talk again. And I think that's really critical too. So I love that this is spread out that way.
You and Nan used to visit each other's schools in Denver.
A little bit.
Yeah. Just go watch each other.
Yeah. And I had teachers at my school. We would go in and observe each other.
It's fantastic.
So yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, I've started doing that with the middle school teacher whose students feed into my classes, and I'm delighted that she's into it. So she invites me, and on it's Tuesday mornings, and when I can't, I text her and say, sorry, I got something going on, and she goes, shucks, okay, next week. Yeah. But it's nice that she wants me there.
Yeah.
And
I once had a colleague sit in my Mandarin class. I think she had a free block at a time where I had a Chinese 1, kind of an early level 1 kind of class, and she came when she could. And she was like, it's okay if I, just treat me like I'm, don't make any special case for me. I'm just going to be there. But she was super about it, and she had that semester, almost a semester of Mandarin afterwards, and just that long-term.
Oh, she wasn't a Mandarin teacher,
right? She was a Spanish teacher.
That's fantastic.
So, but she just jumped in partway through the year in Mandarin, and. Yeah, it was fun to talk with her about what did you notice or observe, and she said but sometimes because she's just jumping into this other language, I don't understand every word that's going on, but I get the sense of like how the things are developing in the classroom, you and your students, and what the activity was like. I can pick all of that up without understanding each and every word, and I find that when I go observe Spanish teachers too.
How important is it, and how do you set this up? I know I have answers about how I've seen it and how I do it, but just for our audience, that a bigger principle level shift, a bigger principle level change needs to happen to go with the micro practices that you're teaching. Because otherwise, teachers will say, okay, you do those things, but that's not going to get them to do the homework, or that's not going to get them to memorize the thing for the test. Right. And so there's a bigger mind shift that all these little things go with.
Right.
So I have thoughts, but
I think we need to think of a developmental process of learning to teach and developing as a teacher and growing and learning. And so where people are, like sometimes I have observed a teacher and I thought of something that might be something they would want to try. And at the end, I'm not there to judge them or to tell them what to do. So I see if they want to ask about something, or and so it's interesting to me sometimes the thing that's on their radar of like where they are actually growing now, it might be a different thing than what I had observed or thought of. And to be able to help them with that, like, oh, you are having this thing. Okay, well, maybe we could talk about some ideas for that. And I think that's more meaningful to people. Like,
Sure.
where are they growing right now themselves?
Does that mean that you don't like to have like an opening presentation that says like, here's how learners' brains work according to research, anything
I
like
think
that?
that's helpful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of the situation where I'm a guest instead of a trainer
Yeah.
in a classroom, and so I have been on occasion asked to then like, well, what would you tell me about my class or how I'm teaching, or like, well, you tell me do you have some things that you're working on, or maybe we could talk about one thing that you've been trying lately that you want to think through with me, or because I think it needs to be more empowering to the teacher, to their sense of agency and autonomy, and not be, well, you were doing this wrong, and you were even when you're not saying it that way, if you're coming in and giving them a long list of all of these things, like, we have enough in teaching people blaming us for all the problems of the world, and so I think we can build each other up and see people when they're ready to take new steps, be taking steps that they want to take. You know? And I think I feel very thankful, like when I was learning to be more using the target language with my students, to focus more on communicating with them and comprehension of language rather than learning about language. I was transitioning to some newer approaches in my 3rd and 4th year of teaching, and had somebody come and told me all the things I was doing wrong, I think I would have been devastated. Like, quote, wrong. But like, I by my own standards, I knew that I wasn't achieving the standard of what I wanted to do as I was teaching. And, people who came and saw me did not tear me down. And it was very helpful because I could only do what I could do then. You know, I knew there was more, and I was trying to grow and just be supportive, I think.
I relate, I think, to people who do experience that. I was teaching 3rd year Chinese at University of Hawaii, and I had an observation. And I reached out that morning to one of the native speaker classmates of mine, and I said, can you check these materials? And they corrected a thing or two, and I corrected those and ran with it. It was Chinese for conversational Chinese, I think, 3rd year. And so we talked about pictures. I had a little listening quiz based on pictures. We built a story together, I think. We did all kinds of sort of, input, interaction, using the language, communicating, lots of laughs. And she wrote a scathing, just angry thing where she just said, like, the grammar points of your lesson were not clear. You need to check your work with a native speaker. And she said, I wasn't clear at all what, grammar they were trying to gain from that. So it's like...
so the mindset was, we are here to learn a grammar point. We're going to practice the grammar point.
Something like that. And if I had... Maybe if I had said up front, like, all this fun stuff we're doing today is so that you can learn this particular grammar point, she might have thought, best well-wishing on her is she might have said... great, you were very innovative in how you taught that grammar point. But I also think she would have said, this doesn't look like a university lecture. What are you doing? It didn't.
It's not, and that's okay.
And it didn't affect me at all, because I thought, well, she's not aware of what I'm trying to do, and I know what I'm trying to do, and so I'm fine.
That focus on our goals, and then I find that this approach does this goal, and maybe there are other ways to reach a goal, but this is my goal, and this is the thing that I'm seeing evidence works for that goal. Like, to be able to talk about things in that way, I think, is helpful.
I had given her a rubric that I made that I always gave anyone who wanted to observe my class. I gave it to her, and she gave
Bryce Hedstrom has a really nice observation checklist that someone might, if you want to find that for a visitor in your own classroom.
I may have modified it from his. I can't remember now, but she gave it back to me blank, and then later emailed me her comments. So she wasn't interested.
She wasn't in
looking at what I cared about. She knew what she wanted.
Yep.
But I think that if I go to any teacher and do something similarly, where I say, like, you got to be using the language with these students. The proficiency is the goal. Development is a messy thing. They're going to go through error stages. If I list off all these things, it doesn't matter that I'm getting it from research or wherever. They're probably going to think a similar thing. It's like, well, you're not aware of what I'm trying to do. And so it's not a great...
Right. They get just that perspective taking of, like, let's listen to people and not just talk at them.
I had a good inroad with the middle school teacher I was with, where I just let her talk, and she was happy to share. And she said these student posters seem a little off topic, a little scattered. And it was food posters, but they had like random, like a bowl of noodles, a strawberry. It was the most random food things. And she said, I don't like it because it's not about anything. And I said, that's cool. Do you have more time to continue the unit? Because maybe they could do a second poster where then they get trained towards something coherent.
Yeah.
And she did that, and she loved it. And so I kind of heard
Again,
her,
it was, yep.
met her where she was, and then thought of something. And it wasn't me saying you got to do this.
Right.
It was like an offering, like
yeah,
what if
about this?
what if this could? Here's a
Yeah.
brainstorming idea.
Yeah, I love that. What if?
Yeah,
could
what
it
if?
be that? How would it be if?
What do you think
like,
about this? Do you think your students would be into blah blah blah, like
Right.
into blank?
Yeah. Okay, that doesn't sound like it's meeting the thing that you want to do. Have you considered, or that kind of thing?
Yep.
Gets better.
So
and not everybody has to do every teaching strategy
No.
that they see at a conference or they hear about online or anything.
Yeah.
We have so many options, and I think that is so wonderful to be able to find a niche for your own style, your own students, and what works with you.
Dan, you've heard this before, but I hear people say this about your demos a lot, that it's a breath of fresh air for people who don't have the energy to bounce around the room. And there are a lot of teachers who do show, like, this is the most engaging thing, and they're bouncing around.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of teachers, especially when you demo that with real students, and the students are super engaged. There are a lot of teachers that say, oh, I got to learn that because that really worked with those students.
Right.
So now I have to do that. And some teachers can do it. They get into cartoon mode.
Yeah.
I don't, and it's always been refreshing to like see you in that slow, calm way and be reminded.
The word calm is the usual feedback word if somebody's describing me as teaching.
Yeah. And I don't know that
it's called Zen.
Zen. Some people say Zen. I don't know that any one energy level is going to meet every learner. There are some students who will feel sleepy and bored and maybe be disengaged. But there are also students with those high energy teachers who feel a little anxious. So they're like, this is too fast for me. I don't know. I'd like a slower speed. So you can't please everyone. But it's good to know that you don't have to match that high energy of those famous presenters. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're a very diverse group now, though.
There's something for everyone.
That stereotype of the really high energy teacher, I think, is dissipating a little bit.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can close it off here.
Sounds good.
Big major takeaways. If you're a teacher who's looking for some kind of training, ideally you should be looking for something that's experiential in nature, where you get to be a student in a room.
At least it includes that. If there are like talks or lectures about a strategy to teach, or about information about teaching, or about how to design a unit, it's not that that's not worthwhile. But if there's not also at least an opportunity to see some teaching, experience teaching, debrief what went on in an actual lesson, it may be harder for you to try to implement even a very good idea that you're really keen on.
Yeah.
So
those
experiences is so helpful.
Webinars are fine. People sharing good ideas, those are fine. And those are worth going to as well. But if you haven't been to many, you as a learner types of workshops, seek those out. Yeah, it can be very transformative. The former president of ACTFL was saying.
Yes.
He was saying.
I ate that up at ACTFL
it was great.
Last fall.
He didn't realize.
I remember his name. I can picture him.
Yeah, he didn't realize how slow he needed to go until he was taking this one African language.
Right.
And just said, "Oh."
He was already multilingual. I think French and Spanish, English, maybe one other, and being a new student in a new African language. I think maybe he was in Ghana. He was visiting, and that transformed what it brought back to his French and Spanish teaching.
He was a really experienced teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had great comments at ACTFL.
I guess that's another big takeaway is that this is.
We'll list his name as credit in the show notes because
Sure.
I'm sure I'll find it.
He was
but
awesome.
I just can't call his mine. His name's mine.
This isn't just for new teachers.
Right.
It's great for new teachers, and I highly recommend new teachers as soon as possible get out to some kind of experiential workshop. But also, I've seen teachers at, I think it was at our first or second summer summit at HALT, where a teacher said, we had 2 tracks. It was the second year. We had 2 tracks, new teachers and experienced teachers, but in the specific kinds of input-based teaching we were doing. And this teacher said, I don't know what that is, but I've been teaching for 20 years. I don't think I should be in the beginner track. And I said, this is going to be very new. I think you should be in the beginner track. And she said, I'm not comfortable. And so I said, okay, choose where you want to be. So she spent the first day in the intermediate track where they're not defining terms so much. They're
Right.
jumping into things a little quicker without explaining why they're doing it. And the second day she came up to me and said, I think I'm going to go back to the beginner track. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what anyone's talking about.
Yeah, because it's the approach is different.
It's different.
Often, so
The reasons why we're doing it and the specifics of what we're doing are both new. And so,
Yeah, it's not an insult to be a beginner. It's just jump in now. Don't delay anymore. You know, keep trying and growing.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've been teaching for 20 years, I find it's never a good thing to say, I've been teaching for 20 years, no one has anything to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I can't ever get on board with that. There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
So never too late to start.
Yeah.
Well, I have been your co-host, Reed Riggs.
And I'm Diane Neubauer.
Thanks for listening.
Yep.
Or watching.
See you next time.
See you next time.